Hello and welcome back to the channel. Rahu will be moving into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So this will be a 9-month transit. Now Rahu in Aquarius is strong, but in Shatabisha, which is ruled by Rahu itself, and it is a constellation within Aquarius, Rahu here becomes even more powerful. So this can help a person dismantle any limiting beliefs they have and lead to personal breakthroughs. So in other words, it will make you more courageous in relation to the house which Rahu is transiting. Now Shatabisha is an extremely intelligent energy. Though it is considered introverted and reclusive, that likes to be on their own, but it doesn't lack confidence and courage. And therefore this transit can provide great results for those who are researchers or students, as long as you have that passion and put the effort in to study and learn. So it can lead to tremendous personal breakthroughs. Shatabisha translates to 100 healers. So with the meaning that any treatment you acquire during this 9-month period, it will benefit your mind, body and spirit. So it's a holistic healing. Now with every energy there can be positive and negative significations. So with Shatabisha, due to the reclusive nature of this energy, this is not supportive for building relationships or even networking, even though this is in Aquarius. So you can definitely meet people, but it's difficult to build that closeness or that bond, or to build like a really strong friendship. This is also a time where a person can show selfishness. So Aquarius is a humanitarian sign that wants to improve society with science, technology and political strategy, but it wants to lead the change in an unconventional way. So if you notice Aquarius, like Leo, it is a fixed sign. So they tend to have strong personalities. But with Leo, you can think of Leo as the government and Aquarius being the opposition. So I will now go through the predictions for each zodiac sign. And as always, I recommend looking at transits from the moon. So Rahu is the north node of the moon. So it creates an emotional impulse, and therefore we want to see how this affects your mind, and which will lead to, your actions. And the mind and the brain is the control center of the body, which enables you to do things. So that is my recommendation. For Aries natives, Rahu is transiting your 11th house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So Rahu here will be transiting its own nakshatra. So it's in a powerful environment to manifest its qualities. And Rahu is considered excellent in the 11th house. So this is the best house for Rahu to be in. So you can expect positive results over the course of the next 9 months or so. So the first thing this nakshatra can be beneficial for is studying and anything related to science and technology and medicine and healing. So if you're doing like a PhD where you are conducting in-depth research on specific topics to create new knowledge, or you are a medical researcher or any type of researcher, you can get some kind of breakthrough or find some hidden knowledge. And if we look at the position of Jupiter, which is in your 3rd house, aspecting both your 9th house and Rahu, this transit is better for those who have that passion to study. So if you're someone who has big hopes within your educational life, you should be able to get positive results in your higher education. Now, with all the nakshatras of Rahu, which are Adra, Swati and Shatabisha, they are all associated with independence and being independent. And Rahu is a very self-reliant energy where a person manages their own life, makes their own choices and decisions, and wants to be in control. So therefore, this transit in the 11th house is better for people who are self-employed, who are the owner of their own business, those who run their own business. You can get better results than those who are working for someone. With this transit, you can earn a considerable amount of revenue or make a lot of profit. Or if you're working as an independent consultant or medical practitioner or in innovation, you can benefit greatly. If you're working for someone or working for a company, you can still get good results. So if you're working for a technology company, you can get good results. But because of the nature of Shatabisha that wants to be reclusive, so therefore the energy matches better for those who are doing their own thing. Rahu is about being self-sufficient. So if your natal chart supports entrepreneurship, it means that you can start something on your own during this time. So if you have like a unique or unconventional product or business idea, this is a good time to move forward with it. Again, only if it is supported in your natal chart. Rahu in the 11th house is good for expanding your network. But with Rahu, there can be a sense of superficiality where you can meet people, you can form a friendship, but after a few weeks, you might forget about each other. So with Rahu, there is a lack of depth. So it's like content creators, YouTubers that, these people can have a lot of followers, which Rahu can give, but it's all on the surface for economic advantage or some sort of gain rather than real, meaningful connections. So with this Rahu in Shatabisha, this is an introverted energy where you may feel the need to be reclusive. So this is a time where either you or your people in your network circle can disappear. So you may find a lack of communication or a temporary disconnect with your friends. So it could be that you deactivate your social media accounts during this transit. And this is a time where you can take an interest in counterculture, such as alternative movements or beliefs, or be part of a secret society. And this is not always a good thing because there are a lot of underground groups which promote illegal activities. So you have to take care with anything new that you get yourself into. Rahu in the 11th house can be excellent in the sense because a person will be able to somewhat fulfill or take strides towards fulfilling their desires. So everyone has different desires. So a person might desire a partner, a well-paid job, self-development, or whatever strong emotional response you have towards something. So Rahu will try to make it happen. So when Rahu is in Shatabisha, this is good for people who desire better health and well-being, because Shatabisha is an energy associated with healing and self-improvement. So this is a time where a person can spend a lot of money on therapy, meditation, and rejuvenation. If you are suffering from any major issues, this can also show that any treatment or healing can be multifaceted, where it goes beyond just healing the physical body. It is a holistic approach which addresses physical, emotional, mental, and social facets as well. So that's what Shatabisha, which translates to 100 healers, actually means. So it means that every aspect of an individual's well-being is addressed. So it is a very powerful energy. This period you can also go solo traveling if that is something you wish to do, because this energy is an individual energy where you can be on your own. And this nakshatra has a strong association with water. So you may feel like being near the ocean or traveling on a cruise somewhere. So with this 11th house, whatever desires or passions you have, you will be able to take strides towards fulfilling them. For Taurus natives, Rahu is transiting your 10th house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So this nakshatra, like all the other Rahu nakshatras, is to do with being independent, and it has a deep-seated desire for freedom and personal autonomy. So this means that in terms of your career, if you are feeling suffocated in your work or you're being micromanaged, this will be a time where you'll want to break free. So this transit can show a change of work. Now this nakshatra, it is represented by a circle, and if you think about a circle, it has no beginning or end. So it is continuous. So therefore, if you do want to change your job, you should be able to find something else or something new relatively quickly. So you can have that uninterrupted period of employment. You could be someone who does a lot of fixed term work or contract work. So if your employment is coming to an end, you should be able to find something before your current role ends. If your natal chart supports entrepreneurship, Shatabisha is supportive for those who want to start their own business, especially related to science and technology, liquids and water. So it could be like an alcohol business or anything to do with research. It could be that you're working for someone, but you also want to do something on the side, something yourself. So this 10th house Rahu is enhancing your ambition to raise your status. So it is a good time to make the most of it. Rahu and Shatabisha can also show working unconventional hours or working a lot of hours at night, because the deity of this constellation is to do with the nighttime sky. So you might have a job, or you might be working on a project where you are extremely busy and you might be pulling all-nighters, or you do some kind of shift work where you might have to do late nights or night shifts. So do look out for that. Shatabisha Nakshatra, it doesn't really like a fixed structure. So it doesn't like the typical rules and regulations because it is ruled by Rahu. So it likes to take shortcuts. It likes to find new ways of doing things, being innovative in other words. So if you are in like a leadership position in your work, this is a time you can create better value by cultivating innovation. So considering new approaches to proactively solve any problems. So wherever you're working, whatever your level is, you can recommend process improvements to make your job easier. So in every organization where I have personally worked, the higher ups are always keen to hear about better ways of doing things, being more efficient. And this can save resources, it can save time and money. So innovation is a big thing in workplaces today, and this energy is very supportive of that. Now, because Shatabisha creates intense ambition, if you look at your 4th house, you have Ketu currently transiting there, and that is the area of life where there is less attention or where you need to make some sacrifices. So for example, if you're someone who is a very homely person, or you're a 4th house dominated person where you are emotional or quite sensitive, then this transit or this year you may not enjoy it too much and your personal life can suffer a little bit. But if you're someone who is very career driven, you have a lot of ambition, you want to raise your socioeconomic status, then Rahu in the 10th house will really help you. So it just depends on, what type of person you are. And this year will be more fulfilling for you. So 2 people can be Taurus, but experience and feel different results depending on the type of person they are. Now, Shatabisha is associated with intense curiosity. So this is a good time. This is a good time for skill development and to target some qualifications, or a person can attend career events or workshops to improve your skill set. If you are a graduate, this is a time you can attend career events. You might be able to gain industry insights and meet potential employers. So anything you wish to do to benefit your career, this transit is the right time to do it. For Gemini natives, Rahu is transiting your 9th house and it will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November 2025. And it will stay in this constellation till August next year. So this is a reasonable amount of time for it to make an impact. Now, the 9th house is your future, which is associated with broadening your horizon of life and looking for possibilities and opportunities beyond your usual routine and comfort zones. So everybody has a different vision on how they want to expand their lives. Now, before I talk about Rahu in Shatabisha, it's important to note that Jupiter is transiting your 1st house for most of Rahu's transit in Shatabisha. So Jupiter here is setting the tone for the next 8 months at least, while it is in Gemini. And Jupiter in the 1st house is about learning to be independent and doing things yourself. So doing things which you may never have had to do before. So it's already giving you growth and opportunities to learn. Now, because Rahu is in a trinal position to Jupiter, it means that their energies can work together. So even though they may not be friendly towards each other, they can still find common ground. So Shatabisha, like Jupiter in the 1st house, has a need and desire to be very independent. And this is a time where you'll desire freedom. You will have to handle things on your own, or you'll want to do things on your own. You'll want to break through limitations or move past over fears and embrace new methods of living life. So this is a time to focus on building independence and becoming self-reliant. So this can happen through solo traveling, for example. So you'll notice far more people travel solo these days, which never used to happen as much 20 or 30 years ago. So that is the influence of Rahu on this world. And it's not a bad thing at all, because this can bring increased confidence, self-awareness, and total freedom, which is what Shatabisha wants. So this is a good time to travel if you have been thinking about that. The 9th house is your belief system. So not just your religious beliefs, but it includes your overall principles on how you navigate through life. And Rahu in Shatabisha is a time where a person can challenge and replace deeply held thoughts and assumptions into more constructive ones. So there could be aspects of your belief system and principles which you need to adapt to and not be limited to past conventions. So for example, many people, they follow ideas, principles and practices from previous generations and the past. So you need to allow for adaptation to modern sensibilities and moral progress. So the more you adjust your principles, the more you can gain from Jupiter's transit in the 1st house. If you live your life by strict rules and principles, it can stifle growth. So it really depends on each individual. If you are content and happy, then obviously you don't have to change anything. However, if you are yearning for some sort of desire or goal, then you may need to change something. And if you can do that, then Jupiter's transit in the 1st house can help you attain that goal. So I hope that makes sense. Now, in terms of work, the 9th house, it represents your bosses and father and people who are senior to you. It can also represent government. Now, Shatabisha is not a good energy for harmonizing relationships. Not that it is always rebellious, but it doesn't like being told what to do. It is stubborn and inflexible, because Aquarius is also not a flexible sign. It is a fixed sign. So here there can be difficulty with bosses, especially with Saturn in your 10th house, which is good, but it means that you have to show perseverance and discipline at work. When we look at Rahu's transit, so when Rahu is transiting a house or a sign or a nakshatra, it creates an emotional response. And that is why it's very important to look at transits from the moon first. Now, Shatabisha is a very intelligent energy. It is an academically brilliant nakshatra. So people here can pick up ideas and concepts very easily. So this transit can support students, especially if you're studying medicine or technology, or even as a researcher doing a PhD. At the same time, Shatabisha is a very freedom-loving constellation that is very supportive for entrepreneurship. So this could also show someone dropping out of college or university and starting a business of some sort. So Shatabisha can give a person the willingness to venture into the unknown and have the courage to lose sight of the shore. So that doesn't mean everyone should drop out of college and do their own thing, but this is a good time to start something new on your own, as long as it is supported by your natal chart. So the 9th house is a Dharma Trikona house where a person can find their life path and the meaning of their life and destiny. So by the end of this transit, you will have found something new in your life, some sort of new learnings or some sort of new skill you would have learnt. For Cancer natives, Rahu is transiting your 8th house, and on the 23rd of November will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra, where it will stay until August 2026. So Shatabisha is ruled by Rahu itself. So Rahu here is becoming much stronger. It is in its own zone, which is good. But because this transit is happening in the 8th house, so you can feel apprehensive and you may feel like you're outside of your comfort zone. So now Cancer is a sign which is very dependent. So Cancer people are normally very dependent, generally speaking. So these people don't like to be on their own. They like to be emotionally invested in close relationships and really value their home environment. So they tend to be home-loving people. The 8th house is about being outside of your comfort zone. And Shatabisha is a very freedom-needing energy. It is very independent. It likes to be on its own. So therefore, this 8-month transit, you will feel like you are on your own. So either physically, like your partner could be in another location, or emotionally, there might be something missing in your relationship, so you will feel it. Or mentally, you will feel, or you may find yourself on your own. So with each major planetary transit, there is something to learn. So with this Rahu transit in Shatabisha, it's about learning how to be self-sufficient. So you have to rely on your own abilities. The 8th house has a big impact on relationships, both personal and professional. So in the sense that the 8th house, it represents joint income, and it represents joint values, and it represents your in-laws, because it is the foundation of a partnership. So for example, the 8th house can show joint bank accounts, and Shatabisha is not a harmonizing energy. It wants to do things their way. Where in a relationship there has to be compromise, Shatabisha does not really want to compromise. So here there can be quarreling with in-laws or your partner. There can be disagreements with your partner regarding money. So something to bear in mind. Shatabisha Nakshatra is very good for finding and uncovering secrets. So there can be secrets which resurface here with this transit. So for example, the 8th house is to do with hidden assets. It can show inheritance. So here you might get lucky and you might discover that someone has left some money for you. With this energy, you are gaining something. So either money or knowledge or understanding something complex. So Aquarius is a very intelligent sign. It is a sign which is able to connect the dots and able to link different things together and also think outside the box. And Shatabisha is one of those energies within Aquarius, which has a very sharp mind and brain. So this is a very good time for researchers and forensic accountants. The 8th house represents fears. So Saturn was transiting your 8th house for 2.5 years before it moved into your 9th house this year. And during that time, many of you would have had to face a lot of fears, embrace a lot of fears. And now, this year, Rahu has moved into your 8th house in the nakshatra and will transit in the nakshatra of Shatabisha. So it can feel like so many difficulties you have to navigate through. But that experience that you gained when Saturn was transiting your 8th house should help you navigate through any uncertainties for the next 8 months or so. So Rahu in Aquarius is good. So there is that courage already inside of you and the familiarity of the unknown, which should help you. This is a good period to study and learn about occult sciences. So if you feel like you want to learn about astrology or anything mystical, you can do that over the next 9 months or so. Now, because we are talking about the 8th house here, there is always that element of diseases. And Shatabisha Nakshatra can cause air-related health problems. So this can include respiratory diseases, cough, asthma, and anything related to your lungs. So if this area of your body is weak, and for example, you are going to a place where there is a lot of pollution, or working in a place where there is excessive dust, then you should take precaution and possibly wear a mask to reduce the likelihood of contracting any airborne diseases. For Leo natives, Rahu is transiting your 7th house and it will move into the nakshatra of Shatabisha, which is ruled by Rahu itself. So here the energy of Rahu will become stronger. This transit will happen on the 23rd of November and last until August 2026. So it's a reasonable amount of time for it to be impactful. So if we look at your chart, Ketu and Rahu are transiting in your 1st and 7th house, so the 1-7 axis. So Ketu in the 1st house is setting the tone for the year and next year. So this is a period where you are being asked to basically make sacrifices for other people. So it could be your partner or anyone else that you are with. Now Rahu is transiting your 7th house and Shatabisha is not considered a supportive energy in terms of relationships. However, since this transit is happening in your relationship house, if you are single, this is a time you can come across a person who is self-made, someone who has a lot of money, someone who has their own business, or someone who is very intelligent and very independent. They can also be very goal-orientated. So when Rahu is in the 7th house, it means that your partner can be extremely materialistic. But because that is what Rahu represents. So if your natal chart supports that type of person, then you will meet someone like that, especially with Jupiter aspecting your 7th house. Now, if you are already in a committed relationship, The nakshatra of Shatabisha is associated with a deep desire for freedom and a desire to do things their own way. So this is a time where there can be a lack of compromise in your marriage or relationship. Because Ketu is in your first house, this is a time where you may find yourself having to make the sacrifices, which can be tricky for Leo people because Leos are people that like to be in charge. So if you cannot compromise, then it is possible to see a breakup in relationship with this energy. If you and your partner can maintain a level of self-autonomy and have your own personal interests, then this Rahu may not disturb your relationship in any malefic way. If, however, one of the partners is very dependent or you are very dependent, then Rahu and Shatabisha can cause disturbances, and therefore this can cause a break in your relationship. Rahu and Shatabisha can show a period where you can be very suspicious of other people, which can include your partner or friends or any other people that you know. So this can show a time where you might be nosy. This can show stalking someone on social media, or this is a time where you might feel like your partner is up to no good. So if they're having an affair, for example, this is a time of discovering that information. And therefore, this is good for those working as private detectives or police officers, where you need to know about other people's affairs to solve a case. This is similar for business partnership as well, where you might discover something about your business partner. So it can happen that sometimes your partner can do things without consulting you or things behind your back. And this transit can also show a lack of unequal contribution. So it is rare that business partnerships are completely equal, even though, many would be 50-50, because one partner may have more time or talent or money. And this can be more prevalent during this transit, because when Rahu is in the 7th house, that is where you are devoting a lot of your time and energy. The 7th house represents agreements, and the natural sign of the 7th house is Libra, which embodies fairness and diplomacy and a commitment to justice. So Rahu in Shatabisha has its own ideas. So that's not to say Rahu won't enhance diplomacy, but it can do it in unconventional ways or manipulative ways. So it's about what Rahu thinks is fair, not about what the government or the laws of the country say what is fair. So the point I'm making here is that there can be trouble with the law. With Rahu and Shatabisha, it can indicate a rebellious nature and a little bit of eccentric, aggressive behavior. And especially with Saturn in the 8th house, it can show disputes with rules and contracts. This transit is good for those who do research or scientific research involving human beings. So for example, you might do things like clinical trials, testing of new drugs or therapies, or doing things like behavioral or psychological studies. So examining human behavior, doing social interactions through experiments and surveys, because this nakshatra has a strong healing element to it. So it's more of a breakthrough healing. So discovering new treatment options, etc. And because this is happening in the 7th house, it can involve other people. For Virgo natives, Rahu is currently transiting your 6th house and will move into the nakshatra of Shatabisha on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So this is a reasonable amount of time for it to cause an impact. Now, Rahu in the 6th house is good, and here it will be in its own nakshatra. And when that happens, it becomes more potent and the energy is intensified and therefore can bring strong results. And when this occurs in a house where Rahu is comfortable, it can bring some beneficial results. So Rahu and Shatabisha in the 6th house is good for those who work independently. So providing a service but on your own. So kind of like a consultant or being a self-employed mechanic. So any job where you are working for yourself and providing a service, because Shatabisha is a very independent energy. It likes to be on its own, it's reclusive, but it is also humanitarian. So it wants to help others, but on its own terms. It wants to lead. This energy is good for entrepreneurs and innovators, and a time where a person can develop new ideas, products, and services. Now, the problem with this energy starts when someone has to work with other people as part of a team or a group, because Shatabisha has a reclusive nature. So it prefers to be a lone ranger, and therefore you may find some challenges working with co-workers and others during this period. So anything competitive, there is a good chance you will come out the winner. So for example, if you go for a job interview where there are 3 or 4 really good candidates, there are good odds of you being selected. So there is a strong competitive spirit, but there is also intelligence with this nakshatra and strategic thinking to overcome adversaries, which can lead to material success. When Rahu is in the 6th house, it wants to change something in your everyday life. So the predictability you have on a daily basis can undergo change. So you may have already experienced this earlier this year, where you will want your daily work and routine to align with your values. And so for example, you may have found yourself drawn to new professional opportunities. So a job change is possible. The 6th house is your everyday life. So things that you do on a daily basis. And this energy of Shatabisha is very good for knowledge seekers. So if you're studying anything related to technology, science, healing, this can be a time where your mind will be at its sharpest, making it a good time to sit exams. Jupiter is in Cancer at the moment for a short time, but it will spend most of the next 7 or 8 months aspecting Rahu. So this is a very good time to learn and improve what you do on a daily basis, whether that be your work, your habits, or your lifestyle. This is a great time to reflect on your patterns and understand what works for you and what doesn't work for you. As we are talking about the 6th house here, you always have to be aware of potential health issues. So when a planet is transiting this house, issues can pop up. Rahu is an energy which can cause air and wind related problems. So if you're someone who is sensitive to cold weather, chances are likely that you may get a cough or a cold. So you may pick up something through the air. So it's worthwhile getting a jab if that is something you get every winter. Shatabisha Nakshatra can also cause breathing issues. So asthma sufferers should take the necessary precaution during this period. This house is also a very analytical house, and with Shatabisha being a very intelligent energy, and you guys are Virgo people, so you have that perfectionist nature and incredibly high standards, generally speaking. So this can lead to headaches and migraines because you'll be excessively dwelling on thoughts and future problems. And this can increase stress and anxiety. So I know you guys and girls will be busy during this period, but it's important to make time to relax and chill out. So don't burn yourselves out. For Libra natives, Rahu is transiting your 5th house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November 2025, where it will stay until August 26. So the 5th house being trine to the 1st and 9th house, means that they all represent parts of your core personality. So core personality means your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Now, when Rahu is transiting the fifth house, it greatly encourages you to build your confidence and self-promote yourself. So in other words, this is a time where you need to be a little bit selfish and think about yourself first and focus on yourself. If you're not that type of person naturally, then this transit you may not be able to enjoy it as much, because Shatabisha is to do with having a strong independence. And with Ketu in your 11th house, it is disconnecting you from others. So you need to put yourself first. So in life, there will be all sorts of situations where you need to adjust depending on your planets and where they are transiting. So if you are flexible and you can work with the energies and the planets, it doesn't matter which houses they are in, you can get some beneficial results. So it's the same thing here, which in this case is about working on yourself, putting yourself first. Now, Shatabisha is ruled by Rahu itself. So the energy of Rahu here is amplified. And this constellation is characterized by freedom and seeking solitude. So this is an energy that wants to be on its own. So this is a time for you to embrace taking the responsibility for your own life and becoming fully independent. So if you're single and you live on your own, this is a time you can gain and learn a tremendous amount of life skills, which will help you become self-reliant. So for example, you learn how to cook, you can manage your own finances, you can problem solve, and you can basically make independent decisions. And all of this will help you build confidence. So Shatabisha can be introverted, but it doesn't lack the confidence. It doesn't lack the courage, but it just wants to be in its own zone. The fifth house is a pleasure-seeking house, and the 11th house is a desire house. So what is the difference? So pleasure is the feeling of satisfaction and enjoyment in the present, while the 11th house is the anticipation and longing for something. So with Rahu and Shatabisha, it has a great inclination for learning, which can benefit students or benefit those who have a passion for acquiring knowledge. So for example, if you are an astrology enthusiast, this can be a time you can enroll in an astrology course and learn about occult sciences. Due to the solitude nature of this nakshatra, this can also be a time a person can find enjoyment in doing individual activities or doing individual things like reading and self-learning. So you might read for pleasure and focus on books that genuinely interest you. Shatabisha is also very good for entrepreneurship. So in the fifth house, the person can do a business that they actually have an interest and passion in. So it supports pleasure-driven ventures. So for example, some people, they like to bake cakes. So someone can set up a cake business if it is supported in your natal chart. So this is also good for astrology or technology or some sort of alternative business, so alternative healing business, such as quantum touch, and basically a venture which can be run individually. This house represents romantic pleasures. Now, Shatabisha is not really good for forming long-term relationships because of the independent and reclusive nature of this energy, but it can support short casual encounters. Now, in terms of romance, which the fifth house represents, when the energy of Rahu is involved, whether it is in Shatabisha, Swati, or Adra, you can meet people, but there will be independence in that relationship. So in other words, you can meet someone, but they will be independent. So they will have their own life. So if you're someone who is clingy and needs to be around your partner 24/7 or see them very regularly, then this energy is not supportive of that. So this is a time where you both need to have your own life with hobbies and interests and be able to accept that and manage that. For children, because this energy is not great for building close relationships, if you have a child, they can be very distant to you. They can be away from you. So it is difficult to build that closeness. So for example, if you have had a baby recently, it might be difficult to connect with that child, or they may prefer another caregiver. This nakshatra is very good for studying. So as you can see, Jupiter is in your 9th house, which is excellent. And it will be also aspecting Rahu in your 5th house. So over the next 9 months or so, there can be better discipline and seriousness to consume knowledge. So do make the most of that. For Scorpio natives, Rahu is transiting in your 4th house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November 2025, where it will stay until August 2026. So this is quite a significant amount of time for it to create an impact. So Shatabisha Nakshatra is ruled by Rahu itself. So here, now that Rahu is in its own nakshatra, it becomes very strong, which in theory is good, but because it is transiting your 4th house, this may not be the best position for a strong Rahu, depending on the situation in your life. Now, Shatabisha is a freedom-loving energy. It likes to be on its own. It has a strong desire for independence. It likes to be reclusive. So therefore, in terms of your personal life, your relationships, etc., this transit can disturb your domestic life. So when Rahu is in Shatabisha, it can make you seek personal space. There can be an emotional state of disinterest, withdrawal, or you may feel a lack of connection to your home. Or with family and personal relationships, this transit can create emotional distance. So for example, if you have been feeling restricted or trapped in your domestic life, so say, for example, you married recently and things have not been going well and you feel like you are suffering at home or in your partnership, this can be a period where you may leave. So there can be separation here if that is something you want to happen. If you are young and you're living with your parents, this is a time where you may decide you want to live on your own. You want to have your own independence and freedom. And Jupiter is transiting the 8th house, is showing movement. So there is every possibility to move or change location if that is something that you want to do. And in that sense, this transit is pretty good because Rahu and Shatabisha can help you become self-sufficient and self-reliant, which can only happen when you are on your own. The 4th house is the house of happiness. So with Rahu in this nakshatra, it will make you chase happiness. You will want to put your happiness first. You will embrace your emotions instead of suppressing them. Now with Rahu, it is an energy that is never satisfied. So even though things might not be that bad, it still feels unsatisfied. So it always wants something better. It's always chasing something better. So you have to be careful of your actions when Rahu is in the 4th house, because although you want to chase your happiness, it may not be the right course of action for the long term. So you have to learn to be a little bit more content, depending on the situation in your life. So if you're like young, you travel, you move out, you live life a little bit, then this energy might be fine. But if you already have commitments or responsibilities, or good things already established in your life, it may not be advisable to create disturbances. Now, having said that, if we look at Jupiter, which is in your 8th house, so Scorpio people, especially Scorpio moon people, will be going through physical or psychological transformation. So the 8th house can be a difficult house, but with Jupiter here, it is manageable. And with its aspect on Rahu and your 4th house, it is protecting you to enable you to be your authentic self. This nakshatra is to do with healing. So in the 4th house, a person can go through emotional healing. So recovering from pain, trauma, and releasing difficult feelings to achieve emotional balance and well-being. So for example, if somebody passes away, so Rahu in the 4th house can take you away from your mother, from a family member, or someone who you feel close to. And Shatabisha has a reclusive nature. So because of whatever may have happened, you may be on your own. So you need to heal, if that makes sense. This is a good time to have therapy or counseling, and also any healing related to any 4th house body parts. For Sagittarius natives, Rahu is transiting your 3rd house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So this nakshatra is ruled by Rahu itself. So here, Rahu's energy is being intensified. So firstly, because it is already in its own sign, which is Aquarius. And secondly now, because it is in its own nakshatra, which makes your 3rd house and the significations of Rahu very strong. So this nakshatra is strongly associated with self-focus, where it will help you concentrate on your own needs and desires, and also has a desire for independence and freedom, to be your authentic self and doing your own thing. So anything that you want to do related to your 3rd house, this is a good time to do it. So firstly, if we look at the area of relationships, so the Lord of your chart, Jupiter, is in the 7th house. So some of your focus the past 5 months or so would have been on other people and relationship matters. And if you notice, Rahu is in a trinal position to Jupiter. So when planets are in trine to each other, it means that they can work together. So even though they might not be friendly towards each other, they can still find common ground. So with Rahu and Shatabisha trine to Jupiter, this can show that you will make your own decisions as far as relationship matters are concerned. So for example, in some families, parents, they play an important role in selecting or approving the partner of their son or daughter. But with this Rahu and Shatabisha energy, you are making your own choices. And therefore, this is a time where you and your mother may not agree because of your Saturn in the 4th house. So that's one scenario. If you are already in a committed relationship, this Rahu in Shatabisha can show a need to foster independence. So having time and space within your relationship to pursue your own hobbies and interests. So this Jupiter in the 7th house is about finding that balance. It's about finding what works in your relationship. So obviously couples, they need to spend time together, but this Rahu energy is about having your own space or your own freedom to make decisions within the relationship. So having your own opinions valued in your relationship. So that's another scenario. If you are in a newly formed relationship which hasn't been going on that long, so you might have met someone a few months ago, for example, then here there is a risk of a breakup. So Jupiter in Purnavasu. So if you remember what Purnavasu represents, Purnavasu is like a cycle where people may have to do things multiple times. So it's not really a stable energy. And now with Rahu in Shatabisha, which is a very freedom-loving energy, this can show disagreements or quarrels in your relationship, which can then cause breakups. So Shatabisha is not ideal for relationship matters. It can give some short-term relationships, but it's an energy which is non-committal as far as personal life is concerned. The third house represents your opinion. So Rahu in Shatabisha can be very stubborn, where a person holds on to their decisions and ideals and principles. So although Sagittarius is a flexible sign, the energy of Rahu in Shatabisha can make you want to stay within your control and prevent you from considering other people's perspectives. So hence why it is not ideal for relationship matters. The third house is also a learning house. It represents early education and the ability to process information to make your own decisions. Now, Shatabisha also has a deep and persistent urge to investigate. It is extremely curious, but it is also academically brilliant. And it is also very streetwise. So across 2025 and 2026, these are years where you will learn a lot. So it doesn't matter if you are not studying, you will learn a lot of life skills. Shatabisha is a reclusive and secretive energy. So you may communicate less, but there will still be an enormous amount of courage inside of you, where your actions will speak louder than words. So this is a good transit for Rahu. Now, the problem for Sagittarius natives is that Saturn is in your 5th house, and Jupiter, it is not too bad in the 7th house, but it will move into your 8th house next year, which is something to bear in mind. So whatever major decisions you make over the course of the next 8 months or so of this transit, the consequences will be when Jupiter enters the 8th house. So there is nothing to be frightened about here, but Jupiter in the 8th house is a life-changing house. So it's not a bad transit, but it will be a transit where you will have to embrace life change. So you have to be mentally prepared to face any potential challenges that could arise. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, your 3rd house is extremely strong here. So this transit is good for business. This is good for starting or expanding. If you're thinking about doing that, this is good for self-employed people. This is good for startups and providing service in the form of consulting, especially in areas of medicine, technology. So very beneficial for those working in these areas. For Capricorn natives, Rahu is transiting in your 2nd house and will shift into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November, where it will stay until August 2026. So Shatabisha is ruled by Rahu itself. So the energy of Rahu here is becoming intensified, it's becoming stronger. So the characteristics of Rahu can come out a lot more. So I would say, in my opinion, this transit is good if you are single, if you are individualistic and very driven. So if you are single or you're very independent, where you don't have any commitments from other people, here you can work and earn a tremendous amount of money, because Jupiter is in your 6th house, which should be giving most of you lots of work or lots of opportunities to work. So for example, with Jupiter in the dual sign of Gemini, this can show working 2 jobs. So you might have your main job, your 9 to 5, and then a weekend job. Or you might be doing a side business, which could be creating those earning opportunities for you, which will enhance the results of Rahu. The 2nd house is about wealth. So this transit is very good for that. And also your Saturn is in a good house too. So any employment opportunities you get, you should consider taking them. The second house is money, but it is also your self-worth. So self-worth means how much you value yourself, how much natural confidence you have. And as Rahu is well placed here in Shatabisha, the more independent you are, or the more things you can do yourself, it will increase your sense of value of yourself. So for example, if you are 25, you're living on your own, you're going to work, you're doing everything yourself, you can experience tremendous self-growth. Rahu in the second house can separate you from your family because Shatabisha Nakshatra is a freedom-loving energy. It wants to be on its own. It wants to be isolated and focus on its own life. So Rahu here can help you become very self-reliant, which is an important skill that people do need to have. Now the problem with this energy starts if you are married or you're in a committed relationship. So here you might crave solitude. You might want to be away from your family, which could be fine if you're 25 and you tell your parents that you want to move somewhere else. It may be okay. But if you're 45, you're married, you've got a couple of kids, then this energy has the potential to temporarily or permanently create a split depending on your situation. So this Rahu and Ketu transit in the 2nd and 8th house axis is generally not considered beneficial for relationships. Rahu in the 2nd house is also good for wealth if you have your own business, because Shatabisha is very good for those working for themselves. And under this energy, a person can be drawn to self-employment. So the introspective and independent nature, combined with the strong problem-solving skills, aligns well with those who work for themselves. And with Saturn in a good house, this is a great time to also start something on your own, if it is supported in your natal chart. Or if you've recently started a business and you've run into any problems, Rahu and Shatabisha will help you solve any problems that you may have run into. In terms of verbal communication, which the 2nd house represents, this transit can make a person conserve their verbal energy. So a person may not want to communicate as much, or they could be a little bit more secretive in communication. So keep a lookout for that. So you may talk less during this transit. Rahu and Shatabisha can be unorthodox. So it can disrupt the normal rhythm of life and the reliable patterns of behavior. So while it is good for earning money and making one self-sufficient, it could take a person on an unconventional path. So a person may, get themselves involved in something unethical or illegal. So take care not to involve yourself in any of that. And finally, the main association with this nakshatra is actually healing. So 100 healers is what this nakshatra means. And the deity of this energy is the Lord of Water. So this can be a time a person can use liquid medication to heal any diseases. So in the 2nd house here, a person may need to apply eye drops or ear drops, for example. In fact, any form of medication may need to be used to cure something here, because the 2nd house is about consuming medication. So you may find at some point during this transit, you may need to take some tablets or capsules or liquids to cure any health issues. So keep a lookout for that. For Aquarius natives, Rahu is currently transiting your 1st house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 23rd of November 2025. So Rahu in Shatabisha will be transiting its own nakshatra. So the power of Rahu can become immensely strong here. The first house is also the most important house in the chart because it sets the tone for the rest of the year and into next year until Rahu is in this house. So this transit in Shatabisha can be very eventful, both on the mental and physical plane. Now, when Rahu is in the first house, a person will start to feel a little bit agitated and unsettled. And in Shatabisha, there can be a desire for an independent identity. Shatabisha has a very reclusive and independent nature. It wants to be on its own. It wants to be in its own zone. So therefore, this transit is better if you are single and you do not have any commitments from other people in your life. If this is the case, then as long as you are an ethical person, you can experience tremendous growth in your life during the next 8 or 9 months. This transit will give you the power to become very self-reliant, where you will want to do things on your own. This transit will give you problem-solving skills, where you can work through challenges and find solutions. This transit will build up your inner confidence, where you will trust your abilities and believe in yourself. You will stay informed with up-to-date information which is relevant to your life, and you'll be able to make informed decisions because your Jupiter will also aspect Rahu. So the biggest benefit here is being self-reliant, where you are using your own powers, resources, and judgment to do things. And this is a very important experience to have. Now, the problem with this energy starts is if you are married or you are in a relationship, because as you can see in your chart, K2 is in your 7th house, which can be trying to pull you in the other direction. So during this transit or during this time, depending on your relationship, this can cause temporary separation or permanent separation. So not always, but with K2, it can mean that you don't feel the connection with other people anymore. So that's how some of you may feel. Now, in terms of other results, Shatabisha is extremely good for healing. So not just pinpoint healing, it's very good for treating the whole person. So the body, the mind, and the spirit. So for example, if you are suffering from any health issue, this is a time you can have integrated therapy where you are incorporating conventional medicine. So you're using the conventional medicines and drugs, but alongside alternative or complementary practices such as yoga or Pilates or using Ayurvedic treatment. So that's what 100 healers means. So Shatabisha translates to 100 healers. So it means that healing is multifaceted. And Rahu is actually the reason why everyone lives longer, because we have so many medicines now to help cure problems that we have. And also we've got a lot of knowledge now which can help people live longer. And that brings me to the next point. Shatabisha is a highly intelligent constellation. So this is a type of energy that can be very innovative. It can find better ways of doing things. It can find shortcuts. So in terms of career, those working in change management or anything to do with process improvement will benefit from this energy. And in addition, researchers will also find this transit useful, and any work where you are trying to solve problems, you will get the solutions. So this energy, it needs mental stimulation. Rahu in Shatabisha in the first house is about knowing who you truly are, knowing what your true desires are, and taking the stride to fulfill them. So it sounds positive, but with Rahu, it can always be a complex energy. So it can give massive positive transformation, but it is also prone to breaking the law. It can get itself involved in unethical activities. So here a person can also become quite secretive and get themselves involved into criminal activities. So it just depends on what a person desires. And Aquarius is a sign to do with counterculture and revolutionary ideas. It is anti-establishment, where you are against established authority. So care does need to be taken in what a person gets involved in. For Pisces natives, Rahu is transiting your 12th house and will move into Shatabisha Nakshatra on the 21st of November 2025. So Shatabisha is ruled by Rahu itself. So here, the energy of Rahu is becoming very strong. And also you have Saturn in your first house. And if you're following transits from the moon, this will be causing some isolation and mental tension. So in this instance, when we are making a prediction of Rahu in Shatabisha, we have to take into account the position of Saturn, because the first house is the most important house in the chart, and also Saturn's transit here can also be a very defining period in a person's life. So when Saturn is transiting the first house, it's a time where a person can feel loneliness. It can be a period of solitude and a period of emotional distance. Now, when Rahu is in Shatabisha, this is a nakshatra which is also associated with solitude, or being on your own, or withdrawing from society and having that freedom. So while this sounds like a depressing period, it doesn't actually have to be like that, because Rahu in Shatabisha is about achieving emotional freedom, which means learning to let go and release the hold of the past. So Shatabisha has a theme of healing and renewal and purification. So over the course of the many months of this transit, you will begin to heal. And if we look at Saturn in the first house, this transit, a person always needs this transit, because this is a reality check for many Pisces moon people. This will give you the learnings, which is a priceless experience for your future. And Rahu and Shatabisha can generally give a lot of expenses, which can be unnecessary. But because of Saturn's transit in the first house, you are developing a more cautious and careful nature in every area of your life. So this should actually help you avoid any unnecessary expenditure. So if Saturn was not here in your first house and Rahu is in the 12th house, then this will be a period where you would face high expenditure. But because of Saturn being in your first house, you are more careful, you're more cautious. So that should help you avoid unnecessary expenses. Now, if you don't have any health problems, except for maybe just feeling emotionally isolated, this is a great time to connect with nature so that you can form a deep connection to the world around you. This is a great time to do volunteer work. Aquarius, it is a community-related sign, which can help you grow spiritually. And Shatabisha is also connected to the unseen realm. So this means forces or dimensions that are beyond the physical world. So for example, religion. So this can be a time where religion may provide comfort to you. it might provide a coping mechanism and benefit both your physical and mental health. Now, because this is Rahu that we are talking about, what you shouldn't do is try and use things like alcohol or substances to provide temporary relief from any negative feelings. So Shatabisha has a strong connection with liquids. So you want to develop healthy coping mechanisms rather than using things like alcohol or engaging in casual sex. This transit is very good for those working in creative fields. Rahu in Shatabisha can show creativity coming through your dreams and visions and having flashes of insight. Because Shatabisha is a very intelligent energy, and with Jupiter well placed, here there can be hidden talents or hidden ideas which emerge, making this a good time to develop a business of some sort. When Jupiter moves into your 5th house, you can develop a business where you don't need to invest too much, which doesn't require too much financial investment, where you can manage things yourself, such as having a cake business, for example. Shatabisha is one of the most intelligent nakshatras. It is super smart. So if none of what I have mentioned so far resonates, this 8-month period can be a time of great self-awareness and understanding of your place in this world around you. It will gradually give you a greater purpose and meaning in your life.